She doesn't have any tools at her disposal, but this character is the most resourceful character in the world. So what does she have? Her wedding dress. Hi, I'm Sarah Lampert, creator of Ginny and Georgia, and we are going behind the scenes. So I had a vision of Georgia just kind of like walking down the aisles of the court, similar to her walking down to her wedding, like the idea of her like coming in like a bride. For me, the thing that it really symbolized was that Georgia hadn't changed at all. Like she's not sitting in prison contemplating whether or not she did the right thing. She's scared, sure, jail's scary, but she hasn't changed. She's got her tricks. I loved conceptualizing that diner scene where I was like, how many ways could Georgia con in a diner? And like then that scene was born. So I just loved the idea that like we showed the flashback kind of mirrored her then walking in the police station and just kind of like grabbing the little things to give herself a makeover. So she's not going to wear the frumpy thing that Paul brought that the lawyer recommended because she knows that perception is reality. And the thing that clinches it for me is when Gil shows up at the jail to kind of threaten her a little and just to kind of gloat because it's a reverse moment for them. And now he's in the position of power and she's kind of screwed. And he's like, you're not this innocent young bride, this tragic figure, you're just a is what he says. And you see Georgia kind of have her little clicking in her head. And then next time we see her, she's this tragic young bride. So she's, she's always just kind of one step ahead and always just working a mile a minute in her brain. And I love that about that character. We knew we wanted to show that Ginny and Austin were really scared. And we wanted to show that Paul was kind of a little bit out of his depth. And then it was really important to see that Joe came in. He did decide to be there for her. And Ellen, Max, and Marcus are there. Ellen's there for her. Max and Marcus are really there for Ginny. So we wanted to show that everyone's still Team Georgia. Like things have not gone off the rails yet. And she's able to charm her way initially into house arrest out of the situation. But she has no remorse. And you see that conversation with Ginny and her after this scene where Ginny's like, where's your remorse? And Georgia's like, I only killed 3. She hasn't learned her lesson yet.
Judge. Hi. How's your wife, Patty?
Yeah, not now.
I think when you're there and you're watching the actors work, you kind of have a mental checklist of what you know you're going to want in the edit. So I knew that when we had the judge have his conversation with Georgia and she said, my daughter, Ginny, knows your grandson, Tucker. She likes him a lot. I knew I would want like a little moment of Ginny being like, so you make sure as you're getting all the facial expressions you need from everyone, especially in a scene like that where it's all reaction shots from everyone else other than Georgia and the 2 lawyers and the judge, you really need to make sure you get the right reaction. So Scott and I had a conversation because she was walking down the aisle and I remember he like shook his head and I was like, why'd you shake your head? And he was like, oh, I'm mad she didn't wear the outfit I brought her. And I was like, talk to me about that. And he came to a place where he's like, oh, actually, I think I'm really proud of her. And I was like, yeah, I think you're really, really proud of her too. So then when you see her come down and the look we got from Scott is he's kind of like she did it again. I was like, that's right. Like you see her, you know her, like you know what she's doing. You're a scammer too. So making sure we get those looks. I wanted to make sure we got enough comedy moments too. So the moment where the lawyer says in his first scene, we're going to need to show your kids there so we know that you're needed at home. And then cutting to Austin and Ginny and they're like pouting to the camera and I was like, ham it up. So just you have a mental checklist when you're filming a scene about all the little ingredients you know you're going to want in the edit based on kind of how you're setting up the story and what you want to call back.
We are here at Wellsbury High waiting for Virginia to
Tony's performance in that is phenomenal. You know that you can throw almost anything at her and she's just going to knock it out of the park. So that scene was actually the very first scene I ever thought of for the idea of Ginny and Georgia as a TV show is what if this young girl walking into high school and she had had a normal life up until this moment, but suddenly her mother had been arrested for not just one murder, but potentially multiple. And suddenly everyone looks at her differently and she doesn't know what her new world is. So that was kind of the concept of Ginny and Georgia originally. So I was really excited to film this scene because it's even bigger than that original thought because it wasn't my idea for her poem to go viral. That was, I think, Ebony's idea. I was like, what if her poem from last season goes viral? And it was like, lights went off, everyone clapped. Like it was such a brilliant idea. So when that happens and she's walking down and it's like her own words are haunting her. We see her in the same green hoodie that we put her in season 1 when she's feeling not confident, not comfortable. And she's back to being like, as much as I'm hiding and I don't feel comfortable as that character can be. And then she hears her own words crucifying her mother. Like one of the TikTok comments I wrote for it was like, yes, girl, like slay with your Dr. Seuss murderous mom. It then triggers that character to almost almost relapse and self-harm, and thankfully Georgia intercepts that and it doesn't happen. It's a pivotal moment for that character, and we wanted it to feel pivotal.
Mom, I failed us. No, I did.
As we build, this is the moment the trial goes viral, and Ginny and Georgia loses control of the narrative of who Georgia is. And now the rest of the world has that power. So for Ginny to be one of the voices supporting the fact that Georgia is a bad person, she was on the other side of the line where everyone just thought Georgia was great. She was brilliant and smart and pretty, and Ginny's had to live in that orbit her whole life. And it hasn't always been easy for her. And Georgia wasn't always making choices that were the best for Ginny out of survival, but still. And Ginny has her own trauma. And then she finds out her mom's a murderer. And that was a lot to deal with. And she was the only one who really knew. Now you take that same tool that she used to express her trauma and her processing that, and you use it against her. I mean, it's heartbreaking. So yeah, she has a line later where she's like, yeah, my last poem didn't go so well for me.
I came over because I don't want to be dramatic.
Typically people don't announce when they're not being dramatic.
I love that scene. That scene is very reminiscent to me of the hallway scene at the end of season 1, when every character is fighting in the hallway and all the secrets kind of come to light. And my favorite thing about that scene and this scene is that both characters have a really valid point of view. I know that we as the audience are really sympathizing with Maxine in that moment because we were just in her head last episode, so we know what she's going through. But Ginny didn't watch that. And so for these two characters, Maxine is going against her mom's advice. She's trying to talk to Ginny, and it's valid. She wants to talk to her friend. She's upset. She wants her friend to make it better. She's coming from a valid place. At the same time, I totally think Ginny's coming from a valid place. She just went through the most traumatic thing anyone could ever go through, right? Her mom was just on trial. Her whole family's famous now. She was publicly ripped away from her mother in the lawn of her house. Cameras recorded it. Horrific. And now she's finally got a semblance of control, right? She really had to level up and really put boundaries down in a firm way to survive what she just went through. Add that with the fact that Marcus just told her that Max snitched on him, and she doesn't yet believe that Marcus has a problem. She will later in the episode when she goes into his bedroom, but she kind of believes him when he's like, no, I don't have a problem. So she's not as receptive to Maxine's moment here that I think we as the audience would want her to be, but it's very valid. She's not mad at Max. When she's like, I'm not mad at you. She's not. She's just put her boundaries in place. And she had to do it in such a firm way for self-preservation that I think season 4 for her is going to be about whether or not those such firm boundaries will continue to serve her or not. I think Maxine feels very alone. I think she feels very misunderstood, which is a horrible thing to feel. And she doesn't feel that the people she cares about care about her to the same level. And I think both of those are really heartbreaking feelings. So she has spent all season riding for Ginny. Ginny never asked her to. And now the dust is kind of cleared. Her mom got off. That's what she says when she first enters the scene. I'm glad your mom got off. This just happened. And I think Maxine would have been more successful if she had waited a little bit to have this conversation with Ginny.
I don't know, maybe we just grew apart a little bit. Maybe that's okay.
Ginny has been changed, and I think that she's not in the most empathetic place to be able to receive this. And I think Maxine is a character who is silently drowning and is really searching out for a lifeboat, but doesn't quite know how to specifically ask for it.
Sarah, thank you so much for your time. This was really, really great. I love kind of breaking down scenes and getting all the nuances of it. So thank you so much.